Hi, hello, welcome to Navina Vidya. This video is about mountains and hills, and Mrs. Malti Sampath Kumar will start explaining the various forms of landforms so that you can understand hills and mountains better.
A piece of land which is just above the sea level but a level land, even surface is called plain. A land which is little higher than plain but has got a flat surface, that is called plateau. A landform which is higher than plateau but does not have flat surface. It has got rounded top and gentle slopes. The elevation is little higher. This is called hill. And the next landform is the landform which is higher than the hills. So that is the highest of all four. Has got steep slopes and have got the pointed peak, that is called mountain. So these are the four major landforms. The difference between hills and mountains will be dealt in detail. The next landform which is higher than plateau is hill. The hill is a piece of land rises higher than everything surrounding. So when you look at hill, you find the places around the hill will be at lower height. An hill is usually a rounded natural elevation of land. So it has got rounded top as gentle slopes, and hills are formed by tectonic activity. The tectonic plates move, they collide and form the hills. The other way of forming hills is glaciers, that is running water, the river, rainwater, they erode your land and they bring the materials to some other place. There they deposit more and more, so it rises up. So wherever the glaciers or running water, that is river and wind, they erode from one place and carry and deposit in one place. Wherever they deposit, that place becomes higher, that is elevated land, which is known as hill. The next land is, the highest land form is mountain. Mountain. Mountain is the highest elevated landform. It is formed by tectonic forces or by volcanic eruption. Mountains generally have steep slopes and peak. The peak is covered with snow due to its altitude, the height. In India, examples of mountains, Himalayas mountains. When there are groups of mountains, you find the mountains continuous, they are called mountain ranges. What are the differences between hills and mountains? Both are elevated lands, but in what ways they are different from each other? Hill is a natural mound of earth created either by faulting or erosion. Erosion, rainwater or rivers, they erode the higher land, they take away the materials and the height is reduced. Once they would have been higher, but because of this erosive actions of wind and running water, their height has been reduced. So when the height is reduced, it is called hills, but it is higher than the plateaus and plains. Faulting occurs because of the movement of tectonic plates. The, yeah, there is a bump in landscape. You can see that suddenly you find there is a little higher land. That is what meant by bump in landscape, which rises gradually from its surroundings. If you look at the hill, the surrounding area would look lower, and in the midst of the plain or plateau, you find a elevated area. So that is called hill. And hill is less than 2000 feet height. So we don't find snow formation in the hill. So it is not snow covered because the height is not enough to form snow. It has rounded top, no well defined summit. Summit means the peak. And there are so many hills. So most of them are not named. And compared to mountain, climbing up hills is easier. In India, the example of hills is Aravalli Hills, which is in Rajasthan. The mountains. The mountains are elevated land, very high land, created by faulting. Faulting, when two tectonic plates move towards each other, one sets on the other. So what happens? There is an elevation. There is a raised land taking place, and over the period of time it grows high because of more deposition of materials, rock materials. So that becomes very high and it is called mountain. It has got steep rise. Higher altitude, the height is it is more than the hills. So altitude means height. Height from sea level is more. And peak is defined. You can find it is like a pointed peak. So you find on top of the mountain, you can make out the pointed peak, that is summit, and covered with snow. Mountains are often named. They have got names because there are not many mountains like hills. So the mountains which have got peaks are named. Steep slopes. In India, example of mountains, Himalayas mountains. Oj. This is an example of Block Mountain. Block Mountain is a low mountains. The height has been eroded. Your land which has been eroded and the land which is visible today is known as Block Mountains, which are little higher than the surrounding. Fuji. Fuji is a active volcano. It's a volcanic mountain. It is in Japan. And this is one of the sacred mountains for Japanese. Kilimanjaro. Mount Kilimanjaro is a dormant volcano, volcanic mountain. But what kind of volcanic mountain? Dormant volcanic mountain. That means it was erupted years back, but no activity is taking place now. So it is sleeping. That is what meant by dormant. It is in Africa. Himalayas. Himalayas are young-fold mountains. These Himalayas are continuous. They have many ranges. And Himalayas were formed over the Tethys Sea because of the movement of tectonic plates. Two tectonic plates moved towards each other, and they collided and crumbled and formed these folded mountains over the sea. Himalayas have many peaks. These peaks are snow covered. There are many hill stations in Himalayas which attract many tourists because the climate is very cool. And the foothills of Himalayas are covered with thick forest due to heavy rainfall. So there are many economic activities taking place in Himalayas. There are woodcutters, there are sheep rearers, and there are people who guide the tourist, and they rear cattle. So there are many people doing different types of occupation in Himalayas, and Himalayas stop the winds which bring moisture and make rainfall for India. So Himalayas is very important for India.